We are wrapping up Post and Parcel Expo here in Amsterdam 2005, and I'm sitting here with Alan Barrie. Hi, Alan. How are you doing?
Fine, Andre.
We've been seeing each other for past 2 days quite several times, but still have our own path. So, what are your emotions after the Post and Parcel Expo? Where are we? What are the trends? What is interesting? What is boring?
It's interesting. It's tired but happy, I think, is the overall feeling. There's a lot of talking, a lot of walking goes on here, but I actually come away really encouraged from this one. So it doesn't feel like we're embarking on something. I feel like something's starting to flip into fruition overall. It's interesting. I was once told by a board member of perhaps the biggest retailer in the UK a few years ago when they were embarking on e-commerce that they felt they were on a runaway train and that they had to be on that train. But they had people running in front of the train, laying the tracks. And it felt a bit like that in the whole locker world, that out of home was, we ought to do something here. But I'm just starting to think that the industry is getting beyond that and saying, actually, this is the way. This is the way. And they're starting to think more ambitiously, like, this is not just something to add to the choice of consumers. This is the main event that's taking shape now. And I feel that that's coming through now and that people are starting to see, which perhaps people in Estonia are already used to, a different way of doing their shopping and interacting with the e-commerce world.
So what you are saying is that we have been kind of weirdos in this industry for years, and now we are sort of normalized.
In this event, I mean, we were an add-on in this world, but now it's mainstream. The biggest hall is just full of it. The discussion is full of it. And there's a realization and an honesty, I think, starting to emerge from some of the embedded carriers and the embedded postal companies that this is big. We got to think really big about this, because thinking at 5-10% is a waste of time. Just adds to my cost base.
This is my feeling too. I sort of feel that our out-of-home and locker industry has grown up so far. We have been sort of weird kid with his things, but now we are grown up. We have place in the table, and not only we as you said, we have occupied 1/3 of the exhibition, and lockers are really mainstream. But I was thinking that from one side, I love it, like a kid in the candy store where lockers are so many of them for me personally, but from the other side, a hall full of lockers and different manufacturers and small Europe, isn't it too much for our market? Isn't the competition between locker manufacturers too harsh already?
Possibly, but there's a long way to go before the supply is exhausted, I think. I mean, take the UK as a classic example. We were late to the party in the UK, and it took some outsiders, let's be frank, in Post and Amazon, to come in to actually sort of press the wake-up button. But that's happened now, and other players are now saying, we really need to get serious about this. So there's a big supply.
I agree with you, but on the other hand, UK is taken, and there is only Germany left, so there is not so many white spots on the map anymore.
So the Nordics are racing away, Iberia is moving, Eastern Europe is well down the line, but there's an awful lot of gaps to fill. Ireland hasn't even started yet, apart from a few pods. So it's early days for them at this stage. So I'm just feeling that there's a long way to go. Royal Mail were really satisfied when they got to 24,000 locations. They've immediately said, we need to double, if not treble that. And I'm thinking, now you're starting to get serious in your thinking. This is really excellent stuff, because they didn't know these numbers beforehand. And ironically, they've done it before. There are two national walking networks have been created in the UK before. One, they own, Postboxes, 115,000. It's a walking network in any other name. The other one, phone boxes. The iconic red phone boxes at their peak in the 1980s were 90,000. So when people start to say 50, 75,000 lockers so that the proximity is walking distance, we're starting to get into the zone. And don't be surprised at these numbers.
I agree with you in a sense that I'm always telling that parcel locker business is very one-targeted, in a sense. You have a one target to get the density. Before that, you are still challenger. But yes, coming back to the competitive situation and
Yeah.
grown-up status. On the other hand, I feel that we have entered from the innovation phase to the scale-up phase. There is not so much additional innovation available. I see that
Yeah.
we are scaling up, the volumes are getting bigger, the orders are getting bigger, and this is good, definitely. So, but we are sort of at the end of the development curve for lockers.
It seems that on the face of it, so and perhaps on the what I would call the electromechanical, the physical side of it, yes. But there's still quite a lot to come behind the scenes in the IT and the optimization side of it, the real smart stuff. That's going to be moving at a different pace in evolution. We're still seeing a lot happening in the electromechanical, so a number of companies are just getting into battery lockers. They'll have to learn. Some companies have been into it for a while. Current Terminal are the biggest solar battery player in Europe. Others are just starting that journey, have announced their new products this week in Amsterdam. So the products are still emerging. People are on catch up on drop boxes as well. They've been out there for 3 or 4 years. So there's a few people reinventing the wheel, as they would say, but that's what they're doing is completing their product set. There were gaps in their product set. Now the march is on to see who wins the contracts, and that's happening apace as well. Quite a lot of work to be done. The electromechanical world, by definition, will have less evolution to do. The open are the second millionaires in this space here. They got 1 million doors. Only the second company to ever have done that. Yet they're still developing new product. And a lot of that is happening in the IT side, which is rich space.
Yeah, I agree on that, but I think that the next phase is not so much anymore maybe locker development,
Yeah.
but use case development.
Yeah.
Because I think
Yeah,
that we are
true.
very much parcel oriented right now,
True.
but there are so many things you can do with the lockers beyond the parcels
Yes.
and returns. So I think that the next innovation will be there, how to integrate new services, rental services, C2C, direct to customer services, this kind of stuff. And this needs asks from the manufacturer versatility. You have to be able to provide different setups for different services, and the operators has
Yeah.
to evolve. Because right now, if we're talking about big carriers, they are legacy parcel delivery guys.
Yes.
They have to learn to do additional business. Because again, we were together yesterday in that location panel and talking
Yes.
about how difficult it's to get locations, and it's getting more difficult, and it's going to get more expensive. That's why I think that we need to find additional use cases for that rented land.
Yeah, there is, and the actual use of the lockers as well. So it's quite interesting. This gets quite community based at the end of the day as well. So there's a commercial aspect and there's a community aspect to it. Speaking to some of the local authorities in London, it's been quite obvious that they like the idea of this community-based capability being available to local companies. So not just the big nationals, the Amazons and Royal Mails of this world, but also the corner pharmacy who's got a 9-to-5 business, but can suddenly become 24/7 by accessing lockers for prescriptions or whatever. So somebody working in a hospital on a night shift can pick up a prescription for her children on the way home before the shop opens and get some sleep as well. So the local person, you're benefiting the community. You're providing the same kind of 24/7 capability for a local company as a big market player has. And you're starting to make use of this capacity and space on a micro level as well as a macro level.
Yes, this is a nice dream, but how to achieve it, in a sense that if there are now there are profit oriented companies, and the main thing is to deliver parcels. This is their mission. They don't have mission to serve community in I don't know, delivering documents. So how to do that? Is it regulation? Is there some kind of standardization? But let's say, I'm not asking you because there's no answers, but I think this is the next thing we have to discuss in the future. Not so much technology, but about the use cases, about the regulations, about the standardization.
Well, I think that, interestingly, I think that, that we started up basically coming from that, do we regulate them or cooperate with them view of Transport for London, and that for Yeep lockers in London and now the UK, was the starting point. And they were basically saying, is it baseball bat or is it a nice soft glove at this stage? So they will regulate, and other people will regulate, or the operators can recognize this from the outside and start to put themselves forward to be part of something that's bigger than their core, and recognize that they're part of a community infrastructure at the end of the day. At the end of the day, somebody's going to pay for these things, so there'll be a price to it. It's either sensible or it's not, but I can see quite a pretty broad use on it. We're already seeing it. Local authorities in London are already saying, well, let's talk about putting some of these things together. So bicycle hubs, parcel lockers, and maybe a third service in a locality outside a block of flats is actually happening now. Those same guys are saying, we will only let you put a locker down if it's open to local businesses as well as open to carriers. So it's genuinely an open, and because we don't want lots of these lockers appearing. We just want a community locker in that locality, that micro locality. And so they're starting to influence it and shape it and make it a contractual requirement already. The signs are there. So do you jump or are you pushed?
Let's talk about also about a little bit about macro level, and now it's a two-sided game, and there are carriers who are buying lockers and installing lockers, and manufacturers who are producing lockers. What do you think? Is there any new players coming to that game, like real estate money and like retail? We still don't see sort of click and collect adoption and big cooperations with a network. And do you see new players coming to the niche of lockers, or you think that this is still carriers play?
Carriers have got the biggest play, I think, just now, because they've got the biggest volumes to actually put them and set up the networks. It's difficult to justify these networks. It's an expensive thing. It's capital intensive putting these things down. So I think there's going to be more collaboration. There are a lot more teaming up, and I'm hearing in some of the discussions a lot of people considering the value of that. And I think there's something in a lot of these. You're talking big commercial enterprises, big commercial commitments here. But I think if you're putting something down that is as prevalent on the streets as phone boxes, post boxes, going back to our walking example, and having 50, 75,000 lockers out in the street, there's an onus on you to say, okay, to justify this, we need to be doing the right thing at a macro level and the right thing at a micro level. And it's going to be interesting in that space as to what people define as the right thing, because I think that's actually one of the permission to grow questions that needs to be answered.
You're leaving? No, but you were already in. You're leaving? Totally. Tomorrow. Okay. Okay.
Sorry.
So,
I
but
need to cut that part out.
this is a special guest, special appearance.
Special appearance from Aftership.
Okay, special appearance.
No bother. Are you heading off? Are you?
Yeah, I'm heading off. So
Yeah,
I'll see you
I'm
guys
going off. This is my last bit. That's why we're grabbing
Okay.
the moment.
Great. Thank you, Eric.
We'll
Take
see you
care.
soon. Yeah, if you're
See
in
you.
town, give us a shout. Yeah.
Bye.
Okay. Cheers.
This is a nice intervention from our big friend Eric from Aftership. But to sum it up, you said today twice. I heard you say that we are pretty much talking about today's problem, but we should talk about tomorrow's problems or tomorrow's outlook and then look forwards. What do you think? What are the tomorrow's problems? What are the items we are going to talk tomorrow, or what are the items our industry should solve? Start thinking. Solving today.
I think we're now at the people have got sufficient understanding of this. A lot of people gone into this when they were certainly in the UK relatively ignorant. They didn't quite know what they're getting into, but I think they're starting to realise what they're getting into now, which allows them to contemplate some of these things we're talking about. Do they collaborate? Can you have a closed network sitting dovetailed into an open network or whatever it might be? Are there different use cases for these capacities? How do you manage capacity management in an open network? So these are all things that have to be done. Are there commercial collaborations? Are there collaborations with other third parties like land users, Is there a need for a degree of shaping at a national level? Is there a need for some sort of consolidation at a local authority level? So these are all questions that I think people can get into now. I'll be interested to see what the outcomes of these are, because they're adult conversations, they're quite difficult. But I think that people need to almost look beyond their own blinkers at this stage, especially the biggest guys. And the biggest guys need to take a little step back and say, yep, we need to do what's right for our company, but there's something slightly bigger than that, and that's the big question that's quite tricky to answer.
So what you're saying is we have to grown up as a businesses and start looking wider, not only optimizing our own cost and operation, and then start thinking about macro level and then bigger problems also.
I think so. It's to do it sensibly and fine. Yeah, this is a competitive world. We're not going to suddenly have one national network in most markets, but I think there needs to be some common sense as well, and some view of what the best way is to invest in this and to share some of the asset that is being created.
So finally, next year the Post and Parcel Expo will take place in London.
Yes,
This is your home ground.
it is one of my home grounds.
What are you looking for
Yeah.
for next year's event in relocation wise and maybe organizational wise or whatever? What are your anticipation for the next event?
I think that more of this breakout of honesty, this introspection in the industry and realization of the need to change. It's the technology that's triggering the change, but actually what it's flushing out is bigger cultural, structural skills issues within the organizations that are here, that are the users and builders of these networks. So I think more honesty in that challenge. I'm talking about companies here like postal companies, which have been through big changes before, but I think this is going to be the daddy of changes for them, and they've got to find ways to become more nimble and better at it. And skills like partnering, skills like collaboration are part of that. Don't try and do it all yourself, or you'll undercook it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Alan. I think I really enjoyed this discussion with you, and it also clears the mind for me what I think about the event. So thank you for that help, and thank you for being in our industry as a spokesman for years.
Hopefully, I'll still be to see the journey into a destination.